If you like game creation, Unreal Engine, 3D environment creation, and beautiful scenes like this one, which is made in Unreal, this is The Witcher 4. You most likely enjoy learning about things involving Unreal Engine 5. And I have several things to talk about, not just about Unreal Engine 5, but about Unreal Engine 6. Unreal Engine 6 already? It turns out that a short while ago, Tim Sweeney, who was the CEO of Epic Games, talking about Unreal Engine 6 and their plans. Because guys, to create the next version of a graphics engine, you need to start working beforehand, okay? It's not like, stop everything, let's work on this now and launch it. It doesn't work that way. If he spoke at the last event, he had mentioned it would take about 2 years, and at least half a year, 6 months or so, has already passed. So we have about a year and a half until the arrival of Unreal Engine 6. And I want to bring up some points here, because the development of Unreal Engine 6 will be very challenging for Epic Games, which recently announced it's losing money, that it's not making a profit, and announced mass layoffs and all that. I want to talk about all of this with you. And for those of you who might be a bit anxious, thinking, okay, but Unreal Engine 6, and I'm just now learning Unreal Engine, here man, how am I gonna, Unreal Engine 5? Am I gonna start all over from scratch? Calm down. Everything you learned in Unreal Engine 4, you can use in Unreal Engine 5, and everything you learned in Unreal Engine 5, you'll be able to use in Unreal Engine 6. Got it? Basically, that's it. Everything you've learned, you use in the next one. The thing is, new features emerge, new ways of working. And then you learn these things, these new developments, to be able to reach the result you need in a faster way. If you stop to look, today we do much more than we were able to do in the past. And so we can create more experiences, but at the moment that involves you having to learn new things. And it's cool to think that new technologies are emerging. And one thing I have to explain here, and that is difficult, is that Epic Games puts itself in a role of pushing technology forward. It doesn't just take technologies that have already been created, but it tries to create new things, new proprietary solutions to improve the visual quality of games. That's how it's been. It's a history of Epic Games. Take, for example, this dense vegetation and nani foliage. It's what's being developed for The Witcher 4 and that you can already use in Unreal Engine 5. You have access to this technology, to this and several other technologies. All of them, which are developed, are made available to you through the updates that arrive as time goes by from Unreal Engine. In fact, we are on Unreal. Engine 5.8, I brought news here involving it. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. And so, with all these changes, we have to understand that Epic Games is a company that wants what? What does Epic Games want as a capitalist company in this world? It wants to make money. It wants you to give it money. But Neri, it's free. How do they want me to give them money? That's why Epic Games gives so much away for free so you can use it, hoping that with it, you'll create experiences for others, spreading the Unreal Engine name and getting more people to access this content. And then you make $1 million, especially when we talk about game creation experiences, and give 5% to them. The big problem is that this experience, despite having one here, another there that gives them this money, it turns out it doesn't always happen, and it's a bit of a lottery. They know they hit the mark, and that, in a way, this happens from time to time. But it's not a guarantee, and it hasn't proven to be. And so, that's it. The company, it wants profit. Whether you like it or not, whether you disagree with its actions or not, it will always seek that, because it's a company. Tim Sweeney, who's the guy behind Epic Games, he seems to have a, phenomenal vision. Everything I see, like his positioning, the way he brings things, the innovations, what he brought from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, even before in the first Unreals. Man, the idea of making Epic Games Unreal Engine 5, actually 4, free was his. So he really believes in that. He believes that by giving people the possibilities, they'll be able to deliver things. But it hasn't, apparently, proven to be that profitable for them. In fact, it's causing a bit of a loss. My fear is that somehow they'll start charging a subscription, but if they start charging a subscription and can deliver something of quality, maybe that's the way. I don't know if that will happen, but Unreal Engine 6 could indeed change its model, or at least move to a subscription after a while if Unreal can't establish itself financially. I made a full video explaining this in detail because Disney supposedly had an interest in buying Epic Games, and then I speculated on that based on other information about what might actually happen. But the fact is that currently what's making the money is Fortnite. And not for nothing, they invested in something called Fortnite Islands experiences. No Roblox? Maybe you don't know, aren't familiar with Roblox, but it's basically the possibility of you creating worlds, experiences, online games. People like to connect, and something that was very much proven that we value this a lot was during the pandemic. People started playing online a lot, started having these experiences where they can have fun together, and while they talk. And Fortnite started having a lot of money involved in that. And Epic Games thought, well, it's hard for us to know exactly what people want, right? How they want to play and what experiences really entertain them. And to have the correct data on what things make them have fun. So let's let them create those experiences. And it's been working out great, actually. A good part of what's made in Fortnite that makes money, that keeps people hooked there, was made not by people inside Epic, but by people who play and create these islands. So it's something where they see a lot of money. And so with that, what are they thinking? Okay, Unreal Engine 6. It needs to have this, whatever. Man, it's making money. We have to invest more in this. Unreal Engine 6 is making, there's no way around it. It's got to have it. And then, based on that, Tim Sweeney, he went public and said, look, Unreal Engine 6 will unite Unreal Fortnite and also Unreal Engine. So you'll have these two worlds in the same place. And what's coming out as something new is Verse, which can already be used for you to program. It's a, textual programming language where you have the whole classic hierarchy. It's not visual scripting like Unreal Engine's own blueprint. And it's fantastic because it's more simplified. For that, simplified in the sense that it's not as robust. It doesn't bring as much code, as much stuff as C++, and makes it easier for some people who are more familiar with textual programming to bring that in and create experiences. So there's going to be this whole world. Blueprint isn't going away, visual scripting isn't going away, but Verse might have more weight in the daily lives of people using Unreal Engine 6, especially for the folks who are going to create experiences for Fortnite, and there are actually many creators who make bank, okay, just creating these experiences. But don't worry, Unreal Engine and Blueprint visual scripting will continue to be extremely relevant. And most likely, the large community that drives the graphics engine will be using Blueprint. So they're trying to do this to manage to solve the money issue. And here begins several problems that they're going to have to work on. And that also relates to the way they've handled the evolution of the graphics engine over time, which is related to everything I said. The fact that the graphics engine is accessible, so it's free for everyone, take that. The fact that, well, they have to merge with Fortnite and pass decisions like, for example, I have to explain this carefully because it's a difficult topic to understand. Let's look here at Metahuman. This is a technology that emerged at Epic Games. Actually, it came from 3 Laterals, the company behind Death Stranding, a whole technology for taking photos, scanning characters, and bringing them, giving life to them. 3 Lateral was a partner on Death Stranding, then they were bought by Epic Games, and that technology continued to be used. And it's a technology used for Death Stranding 2, for example, and in several other games we've seen, but they focus on hyper-realism. In Unreal Engine 5.8, we saw updates that allow us to now create characters with different topologies, from the more standard ones, still humanoid, but different from a standard human being. It's the beginning of something very big that's coming. It's the start of being able to take these facial transformations that are extremely difficult for an artist to do, okay? Which takes weeks, months, and it's even harder to replicate that for another character. So it's the beginning of the possibility of taking a caricatured, stylized character and transforming it into a metahuman. To be able to use the iPhone, to be able to use motion capture in a simplified way, and have that in your game, in your story. So it's a giant step. But look how crazy this is. It's a step that arrives now, after how long? Think with me. Epic Games, unlike other companies, how can I put this? They don't just take standard technologies, they try to bring something new. Metahuman is something unbelievable that many people can't see the value in, but it's something unbelievable. But it's something made available for free to everyone, and it's something that requires a lot of performance power and knowledge. And at the same time, it's something experimental that is in constant development. I've lost count of how much MetaHuman has changed, of how much the steps to do this have changed. It changes all the time because they're still working on a way to make it accessible for everyone so everyone can create so it's scalable. In other words, so that it runs on a weaker computer and on a more powerful computer more easily. The process isn't ready yet, and it might take a long time to become really, super smooth for everyone. But the fact is that many studios have used this. And not just for the game creation part, but for the cinema part. Several things are using it, and it's been working. And when technology falls into the hands of those who know what they're doing, well, we have proof from Death Stranding itself anyway. There are several other games and other experiences that use MetaHuman with very high quality. But this way of looking at game development is a vision that Epic Games and Unreal Engine have for everything. So, since forever, I brought an evolution video here of Unreal Engine, and I talk about how it is there. In the beginning, Tim Sweeney, he wanted to bring realistic, dynamic, global illumination with reflections. So they focus a lot on that. That's complicated because there's a very big challenge. Playing video games isn't about realism. Playing video games is fun, it's something subjective, it's something that isn't necessarily that. But that's the part they focus on the most. If you don't want realism, don't want these things that will demand more from your computer, you can deactivate everything and create your game without any of that. Activate it with traditional techniques, lighting, with screen, space reflections, in other words, with the most old school techniques. It'll run, it'll be super light, except that by default, all of this comes activated, and it comes activated at maximum quality. This means that many people it's free, so many small studios, many people with little knowledge use it, publish it, and that helped create a reputation that, the graphics engine is broken. That's one point. Besides that, these experiences, they are experimental. So many of them, yes, they aren't ready. They are being developed. And then you combine the desire, often from people wanting to deliver something of the highest quality, beautiful, and really the fact that this catches a lot of people's attention. And then it ends up that, in many cases, the game becomes heavy, or with some instability. For a technology that is still in development, but that is incredible. And then it's a matter of my own experience. From what I've noticed over these years involving all this discussion about performance and Unreal Engine, I noticed that it's a little bit of everything, that it's not just one thing. That there's the fact that, it's a technology that in some cases, especially on some hardware, behaves more unstably, mainly because it's an experimental technology, a new technology. And we're talking about, there are many manufacturers, many hardwares, something new, it's gonna have problems. The fact that there are many studios, it's a cheap option. Unreal Engine, it's easy to learn, it's accessible. You only pay 5% royalties if you make $1 million. So there's that. So a lot of people go for it, but a lot of people go for it and end up not having the knowledge. Anyway, it's a very experimental project. And there's also the public perception about it. In some markets, the perception was devastating. A good part of the crowd on Steam has computers that aren't high-end computers. Games made in Unreal are often made to aim for very high quality. I had problems, for example, with Alan Wake 2. I've had problems with several other high-end games over this time. None of them were in Unreal, but a perception has been created that only Unreal games come out heavy, come out, And then every game made in Unreal for that person is the worst game in the world. It's a crappy game. There's this absolute hatred. If there weren't so many games made in Unreal, if we had fewer games, if it weren't free, we'd see more sophisticated games made in Unreal. Do you understand? And public perception would be different. But it doesn't mean the problem is with Unreal, because you can disable it, you can use more mature features, but that's just not the reality. Understand? You don't see a bunch of games made, I don't know, in Capcom's graphics engine. You'll see Capcom games made with Capcom's graphics engine. And then there won't be a problem. There'll be insane quality control. And that's that. So it's a little bit of everything, guys. And the fact is, they're gonna need the work to try and break this. I said it, huh? I have. Every game I play today that has stuttering, I'm like, man, people are so unfair to Unreal. Because they're, man, every game has stuttering. Like, of the major titles, from Resident Evil to Spider-Man, every game has stuttering. And often there's a loading screen, which some games made in Unreal often don't even have, right? Within a single setting, they compile shaders, and shader compilation is treated as if it were only an Unreal thing. I had to wait a long time for shaders to compile for some game just now that I don't remember, but it wasn't made in Unreal. I was like, man, people are so unfair to Unreal. There's several. It's a technique you use to try to prevent stuttering from happening, because stuttering happens when the game, at the last minute, needs to load some shader. Some material, some particle. Something that isn't loaded, it's going to need it right there. So it delays everything else to be able to load that. And then there's a delay, but that's not from Unreal Engine, you know? But anyway, it's a long process, a long technical conversation. You're gonna need to bring better solutions for this. And they don't have an easy solution for this, you know? Because, anyway, everyone can do it in their own way and all. And while the massive use of Unreal, I've already mentioned it, and like I said, it's a bit Unreal's fault because they aim for that. They don't aim for fun, they aim for cutting edge technology to bring these unique experiences. So we're gonna keep seeing this, but the positive point is that these technologies will arrive in a much more mature way. In Unreal Engine 6, they're gonna need to find a way to make it so that when a person enters the graphics engine, it's already lighter right away. In other words, many of these features, to get the most out of your project and make it look even better, and they're already doing some of this, you'll have to go in and activate them yourself. For example, I want lumen, I want high quality reflections. Man, then you'll have to enter a code, you'll have to go and activate it. You know, because by default, the graphics engine already looks great. Even with issues involving ticking, right? Every component, every actor runs a tick by default. It uses the processor and it's activated by default. So for every single one in Unreal Engine, you have to go in and deactivate it or it'll just eat up your CPU. So this kind of thing needs to be fixed because most people who are going to release a game won't go into the components of every single actor. They won't check the collision. By default, as obvious as it might be for someone with a lot of industry experience to check collision, to check which actors are taking, for those developing who aren't familiar, who are just starting out or are a small team, man, it's a real pain. So you need to clean that up for them so they can launch the game and have it perform better. They're also talking a lot about multi-core, meaning making the most of multiple processor cores to calculate various things within the game, including calculating things involving the network, meaning online play, the network. They want to do this, it's a promise from Tim Sweeney. Besides that, a big problem they have is multi-platform, meaning currently, if you develop for PC, your game, your project, will likely stay stuck on PC. Because to launch for mobile, for the web, for PlayStation, for Xbox, it's a nightmare. It's extremely difficult, complex, and involves development kits. Tim Sweeney, when he did that podcast interview, actually said this. We want to do it in a way where you just put it there, right? And that's it. You give the command and you can create the game. Great. Put the game there, all nicely published. Just choose and publish, and it'll work out fine. Other than that, we come to a point that's extremely complicated, which is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is one of those topics that Epic Games is going to have to work hard on to catch up and keep pace with what's happening in the market. That's because we're seeing a lot of discussion involving AI. And here I have to speak, of course, to those folks who hate artificial intelligence. Guys, artificial intelligence is a tool. I understand that many of you are going to be angry because I get that sometimes we're going to have to pay, and then you pay and you can't get something of quality out of it. And there's all this talk about how it's going to destroy our jobs, that we won't be able to find space. But you have to understand, for real, if it were up to me, I wouldn't exist. The other day, a guy said, "Oh, but it's easy for you because you went and created an AI course." But man, do you realize that for me, it was much easier to just stick with all the knowledge I already had and not have to go after new knowledge just to create a course? Man, like having to adapt is a constant drain. It's a real pain. But I realized it's a fact. I'm gonna need to keep adapting to whatever comes up. So I'll have to seek out knowledge and share it. Do you think it was easy to create all this using artificial intelligence? It wasn't easy. But it was much easier with AI than if I had to do it by hand. And that's the point. And it was only possible because I already had knowledge of the graphics engine. And then you can do it, man. I know it's hard to believe, but you get clients, man, who pay you for solutions to their real-world problems. And that's the point you need to hold on to. That's it. But I get that it's hard, because once you just hate something, you're not going to try to understand it. Imagine having to try to understand something while you just hate that thing. Oh, I'll learn this AI thing, but it's a drag. It's a drag. I don't want to learn. I hate it. It's going to steal my job. Man, if you stop looking at it that way and try to understand how it works, really understand it, you'll see that, man, it's just another tool. It's just something you can use that will help you. That won't replace your knowledge, it will enhance it. It sounds like life coach talk, but that's it. That's it. Until you learn, you'll stay afraid. You won't see the real potential, the real difficulty, the real problem. You'll just go by what others are saying. And this is a challenge that Unreal Engine itself has because, well, how do you use artificial intelligence within your graphics engine? When in fact there are basically 3 major companies involved in AI, which are OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, all from the United States, and people have to keep shelling out money all the time. It's a pain. Of course, there are other companies around and all, but these are the main ones. Epic Games is not an artificial intelligence company. They'll need to partner with Google, with others, but even so, they won't be able to add modules. At least thinking about it now, who knows? Maybe they can add modules so that people can connect to AI. What do we have? Recently, they released Unreal Engine 5.8, and they showed the MCP, the possibility of you connecting Claude, which is an AI from Anthropic, for you to create some things. There's even this channel here that I checked out, and it showed me some cool examples. Look, of you being able to connect the cloud and creating examples. Basically the whole structure, you're gonna need a lot of knowledge to make this useful, okay? It's not just about showing up and giving a prompt, because you need to understand the context, the value behind it, who it's for, what the real problem is that you're solving, and if it's interesting or not. It's not just putting something in and doing it, you know? Look, I created this scene here, all using artificial intelligence too. But it's just a scene, like, what's the purpose of it, you know? You need to think about the purpose, like, it has to be useful, someone has to use it, have fun, it has to solve a problem. In my case, it solves a problem, which is showing my audience what artificial intelligence can do, you see? So, wow, think about that, right? And of course, not just that problem, but there are countless others. They recently added the possibility for you to connect, but they're still way behind, you know? Tim Sweeney said that in Unreal Engine 6, we're gonna have that. I even recorded a video a while ago where they showed an experience where you talk to a robot and then the robot tries to convince you to press the button. And in the end, it actually manages to make. You press the button, you keep talking into the microphone, the AI listens and responds to you. So there are many gameplay possibilities. He promised that we'll have this in Unreal Engine 6 somehow, but he promised a lot of things, right? Unreal Engine 6 is going to be Fortnite, it's going to be a new programming language. With this, with the power to launch on multiple platforms, a whole bunch of things they're talking about. And honestly, I don't know what's coming, but the fact is, they're keeping an eye on it. They promised this not too long ago. It was at the State of Unreal 2025. Let's see what they're going to say this year. Maybe they'll definitely have more to show involving Unreal Engine 6. But the problem is that we don't just have. Well, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we need other things. Audio generation, sound effects, soundtracks, 3D item generation, understanding topology, understanding the refinement of things. All of that is also artificial intelligence. How are they going to put these things inside a graphics engine? And besides that, it's growing. The market is splitting up. There's competition. Recently, we saw the partnership from the people at Facepunch, who are behind Gmod, that game on Steam, you know? They partnered with Valve to provide a graphics engine using Valve's Source 2, which is their graphics engine. So, very interesting. For free, you can use it for free. I haven't downloaded it, okay? It says here you can download and install this one through Steam. I haven't tested it. And then you can create these very interesting experiences. And the coolest part, if you publish a game and make money, no matter how much, it's yours, okay? With Unreal Engine, man, you have to make $1 million and give 5% in royalties if you make $1 million, right? It's a whole lot of stuff. So I don't know if it's exactly a problem, but it shows the market growing, and that's good. It's good that Godot is growing, that there's now this option, because then it forces companies to step up and bring interesting things to us. But there's a lot going on, you know? And it's hard sometimes to convey that in a short video or to pass all of this information in a way that people can understand. Because usually people have a very narrow view of the subject. And usually it's not just one thing that's true. It's not, oh, it's Unreal Engine, it's a graphics engine that has, you know, it's not just, for example, Unreal Engine is heavy. That's it. Now, it's much more complex than just saying that, you know? Or artificial intelligence is horrible. No, Unreal. Artificial intelligence is also horrible at some things. So everything requires knowledge, and for you to have a broad view, not a closed view, a simplistic view. It's this or that. And then, in the middle of all this, what should you do? You should do what best satisfies you as a person, in a way that makes you happy, which is totally subjective. It depends on your goal. If your goal is, I don't know, to create 3D animations and Unreal Engine is what's getting closest to that, fine. If it's pure artificial intelligence, fine. You have to go after what makes your dreams get closer to becoming realities. And that, I don't know, makes you money, because capitalism also involves that. If you're using Unreal not for the money, and you have other things that provide money, fine. If you're having fun with Unreal, keep using Unreal. So you have to keep doing these exercises to stay close to what makes you happiest, and understanding things, you know? All subjects involve various angles, and it's hardly ever going to be just one thing or just another. In this video, I brought a panorama of Unreal Engine 6. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching until the end, okay? See you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.